You know, people think that people pleasing is about other people, about keeping them happy. But the real trap, once you've learned it, you do it to yourself. You don't even need anyone else in the room anymore. And I want to show you how that happens with just one tiny passing comment that ended up shaping years of my life, okay? Again, suppression doesn't need an audience. Once you've learned it, you start doing it everywhere until it actually kind of feels like your personality. So I remember sleeping next to this man that I really liked years ago. Not a healthy relationship. But at this time, I was hungry for his attention. And in the morning, he said, almost offhand, like, "Oh, you're so still at night. You hardly make a sound." It doesn't sound like much, right? But it hit me hard because I was already scanning for crumbs, little signs of what he valued. And in that moment, my whole system went, that, do more of that. So let's pause there. Why would something so small land so hard? Why would a throwaway line sink so deep that you start to shape your body around it? When closeness feels scarce, even crumbs of approval land like rules, and your body memorizes them as how to stay safe. Here's why something that simple can cut so deep. First, attachment. When you're drawn to someone, your brain is scanning constantly for what keeps you close and what pushes you away. Even neutral comments, they turn into rules. Second, scarcity. When affection feels hard to get, the tiniest approval feels amplified. It's like your whole nervous system zooms in and says, this is the way. And third, conditioning. If you were praised growing up for being good, quiet, agreeable, then of course your system hears, you're so still, as a badge of honor. So in one moment, my body locked it in. Stillness equals approval. Stillness equals safety. And here's where it got really sticky, because once you've linked behavior to survival, it doesn't stay situational. It literally becomes a script. It wasn't romance, it was risk management. My body decided that stillness equals safety, repeat it or lose connection. After that, it wasn't even about him anymore. I had taught myself the trick. I started sleeping still everywhere. I would hardly move, I would barely breathe. And eventually it spread. I spoke less, I took up less space. I remember one night years later realizing I was curled up on a corner of my own queen-size bed alone because my body had learned that small meant safe. And maybe you've had your own version of that. One moment of approval that turned into a whole identity. That's the danger. You think it's you, but it's not. It's a performance that you learned. So why would we make that trade? Why would anyone contort themselves like that? You can perform suppression once and your body will keep repeating it until one day you actually think it's your personality. Think about that. So at the time, I believed stillness would buy me connection, that it would make me easier to love. I believed that it gave me some control, like if I could master being quiet and good, I wouldn't be rejected. And underneath all of it, it was about safety. And this is where I want to zoom out because it isn't just me and it isn't just romance, it's cultural. Margaret Atwood put it perfectly. Men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them. And I want to acknowledge something here because men people please too. Their conditioning just looks a little bit different. While women often are trained to suppress anger, needs, boundaries, men are trained to suppress vulnerability, tenderness, and the need for care. For them, the cost of showing softness is often shame. For us, the cost of showing strength is often rejection or danger. So both are suppression, but they play out through different patterns. But because my work is centered in women's health, that's the lens that I usually stick with. So, of course, we learn to shrink. Of course, we learn to suppress. Your body thinks it's protecting you. And honestly, sometimes it is, or it was. But here's the cost. Every time that you trade expression for safety, you lose a piece of aliveness. Shallow breath, chronic tension, that exhaustion that never quite lifts. And eventually, you start believing it's your nature, when really, it's just the toll of survival. So suppression might feel safe, but it's actually expensive. And if you hear yourself in this, I want you to know you're not weak. You're just trained. Your body ran a survival play that worked once, so it keeps running it. It's not brokenness. It's your nervous system actually doing its job. But I think the good news is what was learned can be unlearned, and that's where the disentangling begins. Remember, you don't repeat suppression because you're weak. You repeat it because your body believes it's the safest move. So the work is to start noticing, is this really me, or is this a performance I built for safety? And then, little by little, teaching your body a new truth, that you can breathe deeply and still belong, that you can stretch out in the middle of your own bed and still be safe. You can voice a need and still be loved. That's disentangling, not blaming yourself for what you learned, but slowly giving your system a new pattern to trust. Suppression was survival, but it doesn't have to be your story anymore. You can unlearn it. You can come back to yourself. And you know, sometimes this work is hard. That's the truth. It is so deeply entangled. These patterns get in your body and they feel like who you are. But every time you find one little knot and you loosen it, the work compounds. Every time you catch yourself and take a fuller breath or stretch out instead of curling in, you're teaching your body a new story. Even now, I still have moments where I think, I can't believe I let myself become so small. And in my case, it caught up with me. After that relationship, my whole body crashed. I went into a health crisis because you can't suppress yourself that deeply and not have your body keep score. But here's the other side of it. If suppression can shape you down into almost nothing, then breath by breath, presence by presence, you can shape yourself back. And that's the work I'm doing and the work that I'm inviting you to do too. Every time that you find one knot and you loosen it, the work compounds. Again, breath by breath, presence by presence. You're teaching your body that you're safe to be whole